So today I want to share with you the device which is basically the backbone of everything I do here in the home studio. All of my productions run through the ATEM Mini Pro Iso video switcher from BlackMagic Design. I realize that's a mouthful, but this is an incredible piece of hardware. And when I was looking for something like this, what I was aiming to do here in the home studio was record videos a lot easier, quicker, already with graphics produced, as well as something that would give me the highest quality live streaming to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, other streaming services. And quite honestly, there were some hardware options, there were software ideas. A lot of you are familiar with PCs that run a program called OBS, which is great, but it's software. And if the computer is having issues or it crashes in the middle of what you're doing, you're in trouble. Not to mention here in the home studio, audio is very important to me, and every computer has noisy fans, so that was a consideration. But I had a lot of things I wanted this to do, and I wasn't quite sure, realistically, if the ATEM Mini Pro Iso would check all the boxes. And what I'm here to say, after using this now for about 3 months, is that it pretty much got almost all the boxes checked, and then it also does some things which weren't even on my radar, which definitely make me appreciate this even more. So what I want to get to in this video are my top 3 favorite features, and also at the end, I'll throw in 3 suggestions that I hope to see on future models of the ATEM Mini Pro Iso. So let's get into feature number 1, the fact that this is entirely hardware-based, meaning that when I'm ready to start using it, I turn it on and seconds later, it's ready to go. Now, there is a software side, which is very valuable, critical, and very useful, and I'll get into that in just a second. But the fact that, again, this is hardware, there's an Ethernet jack running out the back of it, so I can have a hard line into the internet for streaming and get the most reliable connection and speeds to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or other streaming services. Also, if I'm just recording a video, I can do it in different video quality settings, but it's connected directly to a USB 3 hard drive, which I plug in, I hit the record button, and I don't need to know much more than that. In fact, here on the multi-view, there it is, reminding me that I've been recording now for about 3 minutes. I know there's 60 minutes plus left on the hard drive, so everything is super easy in terms of the hardware side of this. It makes it so much more simple to see and understand everything that's happening here. So I really do appreciate the fact that I went with something hardware-based. Feature number 2, and I absolutely love the fact that they made and kept this product pretty much a professional level device. I'll show you the software side here, and you can see this looks pretty much like a professional level switcher if you've ever been in a control room and seen one before. They didn't try to reinvent switching. Now, this may come as a new looking format to somebody who's beginning in live streaming, but on the flip side, anybody who's been in television production before can instantly see this, understand it, and get right to work with the upstream, the downstream keys, transitions, DVEs, the still store. I mean, it is speaking the language of a professional who is in production right now. So I love the fact that they didn't try and dumb it down or simplify this. The other thing that I want to share here, which I really, really do appreciate, is the multi-view. Now, this is something you would see in any control room, a multitude of screens, all actually sharing one screen, but it gives you a much better picture of what exactly is going on in your production. And I can just show you here from left to right. There's the preview on top, program on the right with the audio meter right there, so you can see what you're putting out. Then it lets me see camera 1, which is input 1. There's my GoPro, which is camera input number 2 that you're seeing right now. The multicast, which is another HDMI input that I use for several different sources. And then fourth and finally here is the input of my Mac computer. On the bottom, it's showing me what's in my media player, essentially my still store. This window right here gives me a live indication of streaming functions and setting. For example, what's my data rate going out? How long have I been streaming? Am I live? Am I paused? What's the cache situation for the ATEM Mini Pro Iso in terms of managing bandwidth and output? This one right here is for the recording aspect of it, letting me know right now, indeed, I've been recording for almost 7.5 minutes. and the hard drive space left, and then one window right here for all of the different audio inputs, of which, by the way, and I'll get to this in my last point, you can have audio inputs for all 4 of your HDMI inputs, as well as 2 other additional inputs for audio sources. So again, I love the fact that this is a professional grade product. But the third thing about point number 2 here is that it uses all HDMI inputs into this, and pretty much uses them from different varieties of even 30 frames to 60 frames, 720, 1080. It doesn't really matter what you put into the ATEM Mini Pro Iso. It's going to convert everything and then also spit it out at the setting that you want. Do you want 1080? Do you want 720? Do you want 60 frames? Do you want 24 frames? Do you want 29.97 frames? Do you want 30 frames? It can do all of that. Do you want 1080i, 1080p? So it doesn't really matter what you put into this. And I do understand that HDMI may not be that professional level of video input, but it is generally speaking accessible to everybody. And it's what most people have in these home streaming type situations. So I love the fact that they went HDMI in and out of this device. Feature number 3 is the fact that this thing is portable, versatile, it's scalable. Again, I can use this for 4 different inputs. In fact, right now I have another switcher connected to it, so I actually can do 7 different inputs if I need all that. Or I can just use one input and record the audio and video simultaneously, or live stream from just one camera. I can use something as simple as a GoPro. I can use a DSLR. I can use some playback devices that I have here, which are connected to the switcher. A video game, if you're into streaming that way. I mean, there are so many flexible options with this ATEM Mini Pro Iso in the way that it's set up. But I also want to point out what it actually does is way more than you think here. Not just portability and versatility from a hardware standpoint. This is the whole audio control panel here, which is probably underrated because a lot of times, when you're live streaming, things like equalization and compression can be super important depending on the actual room that you're in and the audio quality and product that you're going to get out of this. Now, a lot of you know audio to me is at least half of the video that you're consuming, right? How it sounds, how it looks is also important. So as I take you back here onto the computer, I mean, you're able to change EQ settings for every different input. With dynamics, you're also able to, like I said, add compression, even a little bit of gating if you are in an echoey or a noisy room. So the fact that this little device, this tiny little device, which, like I said, is portable, it's versatile, you could bring it somewhere with you. I mean, I don't intend to, but quite honestly, the way it's built, if I had a hard case and if it's what the job required, I'd take it with me. But what is inside this box? There are so many features and assets. I love the form factor of this. And again, I also think from a standpoint of a lot of people using this, like I am, in a home studio, relatively small desk area. It doesn't take up a ton of space. I mean, look at this audio mixer right here. Look how big this is compared to how small that is. I mean, this is my keyboard. My keyboard is significantly bigger than the video switcher, which does so many things. So it's important to point out here that this not only fits your project, it fits the tech side of what you're trying to do. It also fits from an operational standpoint, like on a desk, and it's also relatively easy to control. Now, I will get into one of my suggestions for controllability of a solo live streamer and solo producer in just a second, things I wish they would do. But I mean, this is generally so easy. If I want to use this panel right here, there's the GoPro camera 2. Do I want input number 4? Do I want to see the computer? There it is. It is literally as simple as that. So very intuitive, very simple to use in a solo streaming situation. All right, so I've given you 3 features I absolutely love in this ATEM Mini Pro Iso, and now it's time to share with you 3 features that I would also hope to see on future versions of this product, beginning with the fact that there is no great way to monitor the audio coming out of this device. Now, in my setup here, all my audio is taken care of with this Soundcraft Signature MTK12 multi-track mixer, as well as my Apollo Twin X. All the audio processing and monitoring it's all handled here. But if I only had the switcher, there's really not a tremendous way for me to hear what it's putting out because there's no audio out jack or way to plug in and listen. You can do it through the HDMI monitor out, but again, that just complicates the matter. I'd love one, preferably two ways, maybe a headphone out and a line out of how to listen to what this video and audio switcher is giving you audio-wise. The other thing would be to add a second HDMI out. Now, what you're seeing right here, right now, is the program output of this switcher. I can also just change the output and, for example, show you the multi-view or show you the view right there of my DSLR camera. But the point here is that there's only one video signal coming out of this switcher. So if I want to see something different, I have to change it. What I would absolutely love is the ability to have two HDMI outs, one that maybe always sits on the program, and then one that allows me to change to different ISO shots of the different inputs, or maybe also put up the multi-view. Like I said, right now, and switching around this button, it's not a big deal, but preferably I'd have the option of two HDMI outs. And the third and final suggestion I actually think might be the most important here. You've been noticing as I switch and record this video that I'm actually not touching the switcher itself. I'm using this Elgato Stream Deck Mini as kind of like a shot box. This is the way I've got the switcher programmed. I use a bunch of macros, which are essentially presets of different camera angles with different graphical situations. I also have this other Stream Deck here, the XL version, which you can see right there, which I mainly have as a hardware version of a soundboard. It's all for audio stuff. But the point here being is that using macros with the ATEM Mini Pro Iso truly opens up a ton more doors of flexibility and presets, and the way that you're actually going to use this switcher most likely is with these preset macros. But the problem is there's no buttons on the actual switcher to get to those macros, to get to those presets. So that's why I employ the Stream Deck here, and there's only 6 buttons here on the Mini, but I change pages, and all of a sudden I can have as many buttons as I need, and I'm realizing I shouldn't have taken myself away from the page that I was actually using. There it is. The point being is that I have found a way around the fact that the switcher doesn't inherently have the tactile buttons that I would like on it, so that I could really do all my switching here, and that's the great thing about this. It's hardware-based, but there's also a huge software component. So that's something they could update. They could use other buttons. Would they be labeled properly? No. But again, future versions of this device, I would love to see something, like 6 buttons that are completely programmable on this actual switcher so you could use it that way. All right, I've talked so much about this ATEM Mini Pro Iso. If you've watched this long, it's likely because you really want to know the ins and outs of this product. You want to know, what is somebody who use it? What do they think about it? I think it's great. I think if you're on the fence, give it a try. Do the research. Make sure it does most of the things you think you want to do with it, because it's going to do a few more things, and I really do think it's going to impress you.